Hi Stampers, this is Kim at Great Inspirations. Thank you for joining me today. So I have 3 cards here and they all have something in common. Well, they may have more than one thing in common, but they do all have one thing in common. And that is each of these cards has added dimension or added height to it because I used dimensionals or foam tape, pop dots, whatever you care to call them. That's what I use to kind of get, see, if you look down there you can see them, to get just some dimension on these cards, a little bit of height, a little bit of interest. And let me tell you, I do not lack for ways to have dimensionals. Now, I always call them dimensionals because I was a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator for years. And when I first started card making and stamping, I bought from Stampin' Up! And their product is called Dimensional. So the name is just kind of stuck, but it's, whatever you care to call them. So you might not be able to see all the little divisions there, but I have mini dimensionals in white, regular size dimensionals in white, mini, and these are the black ones. You can see there's black foam there. Let's see. And I have mini ones and regular ones. Then I have these foam strips that if I wanted to, I could cut them up and use them on the excuse me, on my images to give them some lift and some dimension. But I also use these, of course, for shaker cards. And then I have just this foam adhesive on both sides, and I can cut it to whatever size I want. This is good for letters. You can die cut letters. Just put your cardstock on here and run it through your die cut machine with the letters in it. Will go through, and you will have letters with dimension and adhesive. And then I have these. I have tons of these little square ones that I got. I'm not even sure where. And then these are my pop dots. I love them. I've got tons of them too. And then, of course, I have some double-sided foam tape, and I have it in different thicknesses. So I do not lack for dimensionals, but let's say you do. Say you're not a hoarder like me, and you don't go out and buy all this stuff all the time, which I'm getting better at that, not doing that. But just say you've never bought them or tried them, or maybe you just ran out. Do you have options without having to go and order something or go to a local craft store or anything like that? Of course you do. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's start with my first idea. And these are not just my ideas. I mean, I've learned them over the years. So you sure can use them if you like. But you see this little image here? That's my sister-in-law texting. I'm sorry. I thought I'd turn my phone off. But this is, like I said, on dimensionals. But if you didn't have any and you have an image like this, or any size really, something you can do. See, we're going to use, this is my Christmas card for this week, of course, and I didn't want to make 2, so this card's a little different, but it's the same idea. I have the little camper here, and this, I want to pop it up a bit, but I have no dimensional, so what can I do? Well, what I did is I just cut out just some blank die cuts. It's the die cut that goes for the camper, and I actually cut out 3, but I've already glued one on here. And we're going to glue the other 2 on here. But this is what you can do, like I said, if you have a dimensional crisis. But you can also do this. I found this is helpful. When little kids, I'm sending a little kid a birthday card, and I use dimensionals, they tend to pull the image off. I mean, I'm talking little, maybe 2. And so see, I just put that right on the back. We're just stacking them. stacking the die cuts. But anyway, if you do this, and then you're going to just glue the stack of die cuts on your card base, or on your, actually your panel, your focal panel, they can't get it off. And they're much happier, because a lot of times when they pull their little image off their card, it upsets them. So this is one time I do, when I'm making cards for little kids, I do use these. And now we're just going to put it right where we want it. And there we go. It has dimension. It really actually kind of resembles like you have had a nice little, I don't know, some kind of little like cardboard die cut. It really makes it, I think, makes a difference. It makes it look nice, and well, like you took some time on it, and you did, because that's one downside to that, is cutting out those die cuts, because that can get tedious. But I only cut out, I have my main image, and then I usually cut out 3 more. Sometimes 4. I never go over 5, because you can get this too tall. And then if you put it in an envelope to mail it, it could possibly cause problems when it's going through the rollers at the post office. Also, bigger images, you know, that take up a good portion of the card front, if you stack them, you start to get into that area where you have to be concerned with the weight of the card, and it may cost you more to mail it. But if these are cards that you're going to hand out, you don't have to worry about those things. And cutting, like I say, 3 to 4, it will go through the post office just fine. And excuse me. But anyway, this, I think it's good if you have a lot of scraps. Now you saw I used white cardstock. You don't have to use white cardstock. You can use whatever scraps you have. It kind of makes it nice if they're all the same color or close to the same color, but they don't have to be. But like I said, you don't have to use just the white. So it does help to use up scraps. And I usually have quite the pile of scraps around. So those are some pluses and minuses of stacking the die cuts for dimension. And there is that card. Now, another thing we can do, it's kind of similar. On this card, I've popped up the greeting, and I've glued this flip-flop, the heel of it, to the heel of this one, which is just glued down to the card base. But this one, I've just put dimensional right here. So, oh, the other thing I did do, these are stacked, but only 2. I cut one flip-flop and then a second one, because I wanted to make sure these little things right here stayed on, so I glued them between the 2 layers of the flip-flop. So that did give it some dimension, but this right here is from the dimensional, as is this. This has like 3 or 4 right there. So hope your birthday is flippin' fabulous. Let's see how we can do it without the dimensionals. So here we have it, and here's this flip-flop, and here's the one layer, and then see I cut out the second layer, and you can see this little strap is sandwiched between the layers. And that was just to kind of give it some more stability, and like I said, this was just, I just want to make sure that was secure. So these items are placed on here. Now what can we do? Now you know I'm going to put some glue there to put that flip-flop over that one, but what can we do to lift it up? Well, it's, like I said, similar to the stacking the die cuts. I just sat down with a punch, and punched out a bunch of circles. Now you can also use, if you want to, squares. It doesn't matter. And I just stacked 3 or 4 together and glued them. And you can use these for dimensionals. So that's what we're going to do. Let me see if I have one more, because we'll need another one for the, maybe another one. Like I said, I just punched and glued them together. So let's put these on the back of our greeting. I'm going to put 3. And you can make these any size you want. That's kind of nice. If you need them bigger, make them bigger. If you need them smaller, make them smaller. These squares, you can cut them in half and have rectangles or diamonds if you wanted. So you can kind of like personalize them and customize them. Now, again, it can be rather tedious. Sitting there punching things out and gluing things together. But you know what? Sometimes I come down to my craft room and I just really don't feel like doing anything, so I'll just sit and I'll punch. Other times I'll glue. Just sometimes I design cards, just sit down with a sketch pad. So I'm going to put this right like this. There we go. And now we're going to put one. Now you could also stack these higher if you wanted. Just remember about mailing. Just going to put that right there. It's funny, I have my craft mat here, so it's not to get glue everywhere, and yet I'm putting glue on over here. Oh my goodness, some days. Some days. So we're just going to get this the way we want it. And there we go. We have some dimension. Not sure if it's really kind of hard to see, isn't it? But you can kind of see them down there. We have some dimension with our homemade dimensionals. And this Hope Your Birthday is flippin' awesome. And this one, Hope Your Birthday is flippin' fabulous. And this stamp set, it is from, I think, Honeybee. Let me check. And it's really cute. I had to get it. It's right here. It's hard to see, isn't it? Let me see if I have some. I have a white paper towel here. It's just, I thought it was just really cute. And my sisters and I, we like the beach and we love flip-flops. So, you know, they're going to get a lot of cards with using this stamp set. So we'll put this right in here. And yes, it has the dies, but the dies do not cut out these flip-flops. It just cuts out a pair of flip-flops that you can put together. And then now on this card I was going to show you, I used just, it's a Stampin' Up! Set, Adventure Together, and it has dies, coordinating dies, and which is good because, like I said, you need die cuts or punches. If there are punches, you can use that. This will work with that too. So, okay, let me get this. So there, we've had the stack the die cuts or the punched images. And now we've used the stacked circles or shapes, I guess we should say, because they could be, like I said, whatever you want. And if you just want to like tear little bits of random pieces of paper and glue them together to stack something up, that will work too. Whatever works for you. And again, it uses scraps, and you don't have to use just white cardstock. You can use another cardstock, whatever you have. So we'll put these over here. And now we have this pretty butterfly, and I do have the stamp set for that too. And it is beautiful butterflies. And there are coordinating dies. And on this one, did a little paper tearing, and then I got my little butterfly in there, and I put him on some dimensionals. This one here, we've turned it so that it's a landscape as opposed to portrait. Scoot this down a little bit. And you might be able to see that the wings are just turned up just a little. That's because I took my bone folder and I just kind of gave a little curl like that to the wings, just to give it a little something extra, a little oomph. But for this, we're going to do something that requires scrap cardstock again. As you can see, this is scrap because this is scrap that I stamped those flip-flops on. And a little bit of scoring. So these strips are 3/4 inches. They don't have to be. They can be whatever size you want, and that will depend on the size of your image. If it's large or small, narrow or wide. So anyway, we do have it. It's 3/4 wide, and I believe it's 3.5 inches. Nope. We need to cut it at 3.5 inches. Let me see if these two are 3.5. But I will say that 3.5 inches, what I'm going to show you is a guideline. Because you can extend that or make it shorter, and we'll talk about that in a minute. First, we'll just get the hang of how to do this. So we have our strips, and now we're going to score, and we're going to start scoring at 3/4, and I know that's kind of hard sometimes, and you can do it on this side if you have a Stampin' Up! Trimmer and some other trimmers, but I'm just going to do it right here. So there's 3/4, and now we're going to 1 1/8, and we're going to score. And then we're going to go way over to 1 1/2. Then we're going to go to 2 1/4. And then we're going to 2 5/8. So there's 2 1/2, one more 1/8, that's 2 5/8. And then we're going way over to 3. We're just going to fold. So if you start from the score line at 3, it's mountain, valley, mountain. And another, you get to a place where this is a little wider. It's a mountain, then valley, and mountain. Then you have a little thing like this. And we're going to glue it together so it forms like a little spring. It'll make like a little X. So we're going to put some glue right here. Oops. And we're just going to push down. And there it is. Sort of looks like an hourglass. And so what we do with this, it's like a little paper spring. And you can put this on the back of your die cuts, and it will give them some dimension, and it'll also give them a little bounce. It's kind of cool. So we're going to put this, some glue. I'm going to put it right on our butterfly here in the center. Push down, get our card. Then we're going to put some glue on this side of it. Oops. Get our butterfly lined up. push down. And there we go. Now, as you can see, that gives you a lot of dimension and that little extra bounce. But the good thing is it will flatten and go in an envelope. So that's just a fun way to add some dimension. Now, if your image is smaller, there's a couple things you can do. I just put these together and cut them in half. Just go like this and cut them. There you go. Now, if they get too thin, they still work, but they do get a little more difficult to put on your images. But in general, they work really well. And another place that they're fun to put them is inside a card, because you could put something like right here and close it up, and then when you open it, it pops up. It's not like a pop-up card, it kind of bounces up, and it's just kind of a cute little surprise. But that's another way you can add some dimension to your card. And like I said, just push it down and it will go in an envelope. It doesn't add a lot of bulk or a lot of weight, and that's why it fits inside so well, because it will smash down and it doesn't add that like a bulk or weight right here in the corner if you would put something inside. So that's a little paper spring. And I was telling you that after you make a couple of these, it's easy to get the hang of changing the size. But we're just going to start with that 3.5 inch, and I'm going to kind of walk you through it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to score 1/2 inch. And I'm just going to do that right here because that's easy. Now, why did I do that? Because you can make this strip any size you want. That 3.5 inch is going to get you one like this. This is the width and height. Well, this was cut in two, but so twice the height. But say you wanted to make this larger, just add to the height of it. So like you could make this 2 inches by 3.5, and you'd still follow those score lines that I gave you. Remember, we did the 3/4 inch, the 1 1/8, on and on. And this will be on my corresponding blog post, and the link to that will be in the description of this video. So anyway, you just cut it wider, cut it by 3.5, score, and just fold like we did to make the one we made for the butterfly card. But if you wanted to make it smaller, not so wide, you can cut it, say maybe at 1/2 inch. Or like I say, just cut it at 3/4 inches by 3.5, score it, and then you cut them in half and you have made 2 at once. But if you wanted to make it even, say, smaller than this 3.5 inches, cut it at whatever length you want. Just be sure to add another 1/2 inch, let's say 1/4 to 1/2 inch on the end, because that is what you need to be able to bring it together and make it that hourglass shape, and I'll show you why. So let's flip this way, and we'll start the scoring with the 3/4. And then we'll go to the 1 1/8. And then 1 1/2. And 2 1/4. Two 5/8. And then we've already done the 3. Now we're we're going to fold it, like I said. And there we go. We've got that little hourglass shape. And see, this little 1/2 inch piece really completes this longer piece. So what you're getting is a longer piece, a piece that's the same size, but folded in half. A longer piece that's made with a 1/2 a size, and then the whole lays over it. That sounds confusing, I know. But if you did not have this piece right here, and you just glued these together, you're not going to get a bouncy spring or that hourglass look. You're going to get a weird little triangle. So that's why you need this extra little 1/2 inch to be able to adhere this piece to and finish the shape, the little hourglass shape. So let's just put some glue on that. And there we go. There's another one. So basically what I'm saying, in maybe not a very eloquent way, is whatever size piece of cardstock you cut in length, can't get my pen back in my glue, there we go. You want to be sure to kind of reserve about a 1/2 inch. Then it's just a matter of, with that 1/2 inch tucked under, fold it in half, then fold this in half, fold this in half. So see, basically you've taken your paper, folded it in half, and then folded each half in half. And then, okay, you have a square, right? This little 1/2 inch piece will meet right here to complete your square. Tuck in the sides. And you have it. So that's the way that will work, doing it that way. You don't even need measurements or score lines, but that will work and give you the little spring. Just like that. Take your strip of paper, fold in or fold back a 1/2 inch, fold it in half, fold it in half again, make the square, then on the sides push in the centers, and there's your little spring. And like I said, you can make it longer, shorter, however you want it, if you just use that little formula right there. And like I said, that's easy. There's no scoring, nothing. So that is how I make these little paper springs, so that we can have some little dimension on the card and bounce. And so like I say, the pluses to this is it folds flat. You use scraps of cardstock. So you know, it mail's easy because it does fold flat. They're easy to put together. There is a bit of a learning curve sometimes. It takes a little bit of practice. Like I said, I will have these measurements for you to follow and make a few using this. Then you'll get the hang of it, and you'll find it really easy to just cut the paper, fold that 1/2 inch, then fold it in half, fold in half again, make a little box, and then, excuse me, I am not good today with my voice. Make that little box, and then press in the sides. So you will have your little hourglass shape and your spring. So, and like I said, you can cut them in half or just make them narrower. And without cutting them in half. Or, like I said, if you make one and cut them in half, then you've basically got a 2-for-1. Now, the downside is it can be a little tedious. Sometimes you can't fold one small enough that it makes it worth your while to use if you have a really small image. But other than that, these work very nicely, and I really like the look. It's kind of surprising that you get that a little more oomph than from just a dimensional. Now, sometimes you may not want that. That's why it would be another downside. But anyway, let's kind of look over these again. Here's our added dimension with the little paper spring. And then these are the ones we use, the stacks of punched circles or squares, or you can cut them as well for our greeting and for the flip-flop. And then on this one, we use the stacks of die cuts and glue them together to add that lift that dimensionals would give us. So, what do you think? Now, I know most of you, dimensionals are relatively inexpensive. We all love them, but sometimes it's fun to just kind of find other ways to use what we have, like I said, scraps of cardstock, to get a very similar look to other products that we purchase. I want to thank you for joining me, and like I said, in the description of this video, you will find a link to my corresponding blog post. And on that blog post, you will not only find information about these different ways to make dimensionals, but you'll also find information about the products I use to make these cards. Again, thanks for joining me, and until next time, stamp happy.